Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another ICB webinar. We're really delighted to have our friends from Iris here today to talk to us about the move from TaxFiler to Iris Elements. This is a really important move for any TaxFiler customer, and what the team are here to do today is to talk to you about the process of it. And also our ICB member, Rebecca Williams, is here to talk about using the product as well. At a later date, we'll have more information about Iris Elements because it's going through its accreditation at the moment. So we'll have a webinar with a demonstration, and look out for Iris at some of our events over the next 12 months. Obviously, we've got the Inspire Tour coming up in June and July, and the Bookkeepers Summit tickets are open. It's a legal requirement for me to say that. So without further ado, Mark, I'm going to hand over to you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. And thank you for the ICB for giving us this opportunity to spend some time with you all this morning. Welcome everybody to this discussion around the move from TaxFiler to Elements. For those who don't know me, I'm Mark Chambers. I'm the Managing Director for the accountancy practice here at Iris. And I've got a fantastic set of people who are joining me today to have this discussion. So introduce Rebecca Williams, first of all, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Rebecca, and I'm the director and founder of Accounts Made Easy, and also Rebecca's Finance Tutorials on YouTube, Facebook, and TikTok.
Thanks, Rebecca. And Sean, would you like to introduce yourself also?
Hi all, thanks for having us today. I'm Sean Deverell. I'm part of the tax product management team here at Iris. Been here over a decade, and looking forward to talking to you all today about what we're doing with Iris Elements.
Great, thanks both. And so, as you can see, we've got some great experience on the call today to be able to have this conversation. But ultimately, the next 30 minutes is really about you, our customers, our existing TaxFiler customers, and helping you to really understand why we're taking this journey across to Iris Elements from TaxFiler. What does this mean for you? In the last 6 months, we've had about 4,500 customers from TaxFiler migrate across to Elements. So in that time, we've had lots of great experiences with those customers. We've had lots of learnings that we've been able to bring to the table and we'll be able to talk about today around the things that we've learned, and some fantastic feedback from those customers who are now using Elements every day to run their practices, to run their businesses, and really want to share those stories, those experiences with this group today. So that you can also reap the benefits of moving across to Elements. It's very natural, I think, that as you're sitting there today using a particular set of software to run your business, that there's a nervousness out there about, why should I move? What does it mean if I move? Is it going to be very different when I move to the new platform? What does that migration journey look like? Is there any risk associated with it, in particular around my data? And that can be scary. So between Sean and Rebecca, hopefully we'll allay all of those fears in the next 30 minutes. But as we go through this conversation, if there's any questions that you'd like to ask, by all means, please put them into the chat. We'll try and address them today on the call. If we don't get to them for some reason, we'll make sure that we do follow up with them immediately after this webinar. But we'll try and address all of those questions as we go along today. So with that, Sean, is probably a good place to start with. As I mentioned there, we know our TaxFiler customers, for the most part, have been using that system for a long time, very much like it, and are very happy with it. So do you want to just walk us through, Sean, a little bit about why are we doing this transition across to Elements now, and maybe some of the benefits that brings with it in that process?
Yeah, I think it's a really important question, and probably the question we get asked the most is sort of why are we sort of going through this migration process? Because TaxFiler, it's a really popular and it's a really well-liked product, and we've got a lot of users, really high usage on it. And this leads to sort of a lot of requests for new features, whether it's sort of AML checks or sort of the ability to do more complicated accounts. And these are things that we already have built sort of in the Elements platform. And so actually bringing TaxFiler into that sort of ecosystem means that all these new great features are available for them without them needing to be sort of separately developed. And with TaxFiler sort of being sort of over a decade old now, it is sort of a first generation cloud product. And with advancements in technology, things like security, resilience, sort of the backbone of how TaxFiler is built isn't best placed to handle it, whereas Elements is sort of at the cutting edge of those sorts of things, so we can make sure your data is safe and secure, resilient, reliable at all times.
That makes a lot of sense. I think one of the things that we hear from our customers a lot is, in particular, our TaxFiler customers who either made that journey or are starting that journey across to Elements, is really trying to understand how that process works, and what does that migration program look like. There was a bit of feedback, interestingly, I heard from the recent DAS event, where one of our customers who's now done that transition said that they were very nervous about doing it, and they felt like it was pressing a big red button. And literally at the end of the day, they hit that red button, closed the door of their office, went away, and kind of crossed their fingers a little bit in hope. But I'd like to think that it's not quite as left to hope as that. I've always said hope is not a strategy, and I think there's a clear strategy around how we do that migration. Sean, do you want to just kind of walk us through what that looks like, and remove that fear of that it's not as daunting as pressing a button and sitting back and hoping for the best?
Yeah, and I think that sort of fear is understandable, because this is sort of the backbone of your business, all your data and everything. So that fear of the big red button is an understandable fear. But I think we try to sort of look at it a little bit like as if you're using sort of Word or Excel. And if you want to move data around, you've got two options. You can go down sort of the cut and paste option. So you're removing the data from one field and putting it somewhere else. Or you could go down the copy and paste route. So I'm taking it from one place, but the version of it's still going to be there. And then we're going to move it to a new location. And that's what we do with the TaxFiler Elements migration. When you do press that big red button, it doesn't mean all your TaxFiler data is immediately gone. That's still there. That's still in place. So we hope you won't encounter any problems. But if something does happen along the way, we always have that there as a backup. And it gives us that opportunity to sort of give you that safety net. And sort of the way we're sort of going about this migration process, we aren't doing it in a way where we're trying to move all customers in one go. Because if we do that, we're really going to struggle from a support perspective. That's thousands and thousands of customers doing it in one go. So what we're doing it in batches. So we're grouping it into smaller numbers around sort of when their contract renewal's up, and that gives us the opportunity to much better support people on that journey. So not only do you not have to fear that your data is going to move, but we have people there ready to help. So when you get to that point of renewal, you'll get some emails from us, and you'll also get notifications within the TaxFiler app itself to let you know that's what's going on. And then there's a 30-day period to sort of actually do the migration. And during that period, you'll get access to Elements as sort of a free trial. So you can log in, you can have a look at it, you can get comfortable with it before the data's moved. And during that period, when you're ready to actually like sort of push the big red button of the migration, it all sits within the TaxFiler product as it is at the moment. So you can log in there and start the migration yourself. And what we do is we move all your historical accounts, all your historical tax. So that's not just things that are ready to submit, have been submitted, anything you're halfway through working, we'll move it. So you could be in the middle of a tax return in TaxFiler and you could finish it off in Elements. It's a whole move.
That's very reassuring, and I particularly like that analogy of the copying as opposed to cut and paste, because I think that's probably, if it was my practice or my business and I was moving systems, my big fear is that if I was to, as you described it, cut and paste, is what happens if I cut and the paste doesn't land. That concept that it's not as dramatic or as drastic as that, and there is that rollback option, I think really would reassure me, is that from a business perspective that worst case scenario, there's very clearly a well thought out fallback plan. And I think that's quite reassuring. So I think that's great to hear. Have you, over the past few months, Sean, have you, I know we talked to a lot of customers. Have you had much feedback from customers yourself or into the product team?
Yeah, I mean, what's great with the sort of the popularity of the product is it gives us a really good opportunity for feedback. And on a whole, all the feedback's been really positive. We built sort of the Elements tax and accounts products to be very similar to TaxFiler. so that actually when you do make that move, it doesn't feel like you're learning a whole new product. There's sort of a bit of a safety in that the look and feel of the majority of it is what you're used to. So you're not spending hours retraining yourself, staff, having to like call us up for lots of like hand holding. It's sort of very similar to what they're used to. We have had some feedback in terms of there are some differences, particularly around how we handle sole traders within Elements, because the Elements platform isn't just built for sort of our tax and accounts. It handles practice manager, proposals, AML, lots of different things. So within Elements, sole traders by default are separated out into the business entity and the proprietor. And that's something that our TaxFiler customers aren't used to. The good news with that is the migration itself handles that, so that there's actually nothing to do with any of your existing clients. When it migrates out, it will sort of create those two entities and link them together. So it might feel a bit different, but there's no extra work there to actually set it up. But with the feedback we've had, and so we are listening to it. So although it wasn't there to begin with, we did put some work in place so that actually if you want to go down the route and just have sort of the self-employment pages set up against the individual, you can now do that as well. So trying to give the flexibility within the product to do what you need.
Great. Call me a skeptic, Sean, but as much as I think your description there is fantastic. I always like to hear from somebody that's not in Iris and who has a customer's perspective on it. So let's do exactly that. So Rebecca, probably just as a good starting point, it'd be useful for the rest of the audience who don't know you, which in itself would be a surprise. If you could just give us a little bit of an overview of your practice, the types of clients you deal with, the diversity of clients that you've got today.
Yeah, and sure. And I'll actually caveat this before I go into that to say that we used TaxFiler years ago, and we now use Elements now. And I will say I'll agree that actually the differences between the two, I would say, are very minimal. But the reason why we have the differences now is because, like any other CRM system, you're going to have the contacts as well as the business element. And that I think that's the difference that might be catching a couple off guard. But it's there so we've got the contacts so we can undertake AML processes, etc. alongside that, for instance. So it's very similar to other CRM systems in that way. Types of clients that we have, so it really is a mixed bag. I think the goal initially was to niche down into a certain area from past experience. So for anyone who doesn't know, I spent 8 years in practice and then a further 5 or so years in industry before setting up this practice. So it worked with lots of different clients. So I wasn't sure where to niche down initially. So we've sort of scrapped the niching down per se, and we now work with business owners that we like, and we have the same sort of goals and headspace and aspirations. So we work with a certain type of person and business as opposed to a certain industry. So we've got sole traders, we've got small limited companies, medium limited companies, we've got SaaS clients. Those are our predominant clients. We've got marketing agencies. Who else have we got? We've got freelancers, all sorts, property landlords, property business owners. Yeah, just the whole mixed bag, I'd say. Yeah, Claire, yes, people that we like, we work with predominantly. So it's not a particular industry. So that was, I guess, one of our reservations about using Iris Elements to begin with. But you've got a few things that you want to sort out and make sure that that piece of software you're going to be using is going to support you. So we wanted to make sure that it was able to support a wide range of different clients and not just, this set industry, which it can do. So, across the board, it seems to be able to support each element of, each different element our clients tend to have. So, yeah, I hope that helps explain the types of clients that we have.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. And I love, and as Claire has said as well, I love that idea that you you work with people that you like with, not a particular industry. That's a fantastic way to start your day, I'd imagine, knowing that that's what's facing ahead of you.
Absolutely.
And I guess again, from that experience, working with different clients, knowing that they got slightly different needs depending on the nature of them, and the niche that they are in. How have you found, or how have your teams found, using the system and its ease of use for those different processes, if you like, and ways of working with different clients? And then ultimately, from your perspective as an owner of a business, or somebody in a managerial role, how do you find that process of making sure that the work is done to standard, and that the system is really supporting your business?
So I'll say two things on this front. Firstly, I personally have used, I don't know how many different systems of CRM or accounts preparation along those 16 or so years of experience at this point. So I've probably worked with at least 20 different types of software at this point. So it was really, really key to me that whatever process or software that we chose, it had to have that review process element. So again, I come from an audit background. So controls are very, very much at the forefront of our business. We've got a phrase, simple, stupid, so that everything is kept as simple as it possibly can be, step by step, really easy to follow. You don't really need any bookkeeping experience to work for me, because it's all there, sort of objective, methodology. Here's what you need to do. So our software had to map that, it had to mirror that even. So what I like about Elements is that you've got the ability where, let's just say that you're preparing a set of accounts, and not accounts, let's look at a self-assessment instead. So you've got the option there to add on different elements, so property, etc. If they're self-employed, or if they've got foreign income, for example, you've got a very, very clear view of being able to add that information on in the data input. So that's key. So from a managerial point of view, a review process, if I know that this client has got property and that certain element has not been selected, I know that, we need to pick that up. So there's that. But also the way that Elements is set out is you've got this sort of left to right process. So you have to complete left to right in order to produce a set of accounts or the self-assessment return, etc. So you can't do one step without the other, which makes my job a little bit easier, because I know that that process has been followed. But the other end of it is that, again, there's certain, I keep saying the word elements, I know we're talking about Iris Elements, but there's certain steps in a process where I've used different, again, CRM systems and software before today, where that final check is not there. So what I mean by that is, for instance, if you haven't selected that the directors have signed the report, you will get an error. If you haven't selected that, these are a micro set of company accounts, but you haven't selected the P&L income on one of the tabs, for instance, it'll flag and say, well, HMRC need this. Are you sure? Are you happy? Etc. Before it will allow you to submit. So you've almost got that second step of checks and verification, which I love, again, as a previous auditor, before anything is submitted. So the review process for me is very strong. So again, I can't recommend that enough. And yeah, it just makes my job a lot easier and saves me time.
And I guess that for me, customers who are not familiar with that Elements and haven't had the chance to go in and trial it or play with it yet, that familiarity, and as you said, that ease of use, I think, becomes really critical in terms of being able to adopt the solution quickly and easily.
Yeah, and the other thing for me is that again, I look at this from the perspective of a bookkeeper who has completed their exams through the ICB, and they're now looking at setting up a practice. And it's a big learning curve. It really is, because nobody teaches you how to be a business owner or an employer. And that change in mindset from being an employee to an employee, you've got so many things you've got to think about. The last thing you want to do is implement a system that is going to take you forever to learn. It's going to be difficult. You're not going to understand where to find things. You might miss something. And there's always that worry of, what if I do miss something, etc. And you second guess yourself. So having a system that's really easy to follow, like Iris Elements, where you've got everything there for you and it's very clear, step by step, it's just going to make your job a heck of a lot easier. So, yeah.
That's fantastic, and great to hear the feedback. So thanks for that, Rebecca. Conscious the Sean, that obviously with software is always evolving. We're always looking to look for new ideas and new evolutions of how we can continue to grow and build the software and provide more functions, features, capability to our end customers. Would you be able to talk to Sean a little bit around some of the things that we have evolved that are different in Elements, and maybe how we've got that from feedback from customers?
Yeah, definitely. So with the whole Elements platform, we operate something we call the Ideas Portal. And it's a really great tool for customers to be able to log in. You can log ideas, which then will come straight to us in the product team to sort of review them. And it also allows you to go log in, see what ideas other people are logging, and you're able to sort of vote them up and down. So it gives us a sort of immediate feedback of what's really important to customers. And so there's been a number of things that have come out from that. Some of them quite small things that sort of TaxFiler didn't cater for. So things like not including payments on account on the SA 302. So we put that in as something that was quite a quick thing to get in, or including the UTR. So if you are needing to provide sort of tax calculations to your mortgage advisor, they've got sort of the references on there that they need to send off to the bank and things like that. And there's some sort of larger items that's come up from customers in terms of letting us know they weren't able to see what were the upcoming deadlines that they had to deal with. So they could see sort of progress across sort of their different clients, but they couldn't see what's coming up this week, what's coming up today, even in sort of one place. So we're using sort of like the widgets on the homepage and introducing new things there where you can see that information as soon as you log in, so you know what's important for you immediately. And these are things that we try and do in terms of our sort of planning sort of every quarter. We call them customer satisfaction items. So we'll go through a hard, try and pick up sort of the most popular things and plan that into our work to make sure we're delivering the things that the people want rather than the things that we think they want. And it's been really successful. And the feedback then we get immediately from customers. We had a lovely quote of, I put in a request for a new feature, logged in the next day, and it suddenly appeared. And that's a really good thing that we can hear back from people. So we'll continue sort of trying to put those things in.
That's great. And I think and I just see somebody's come in with a question there saying if you could show one or two examples of using Iris Elements. And absolutely, I think we don't have it lined up for this particular session, but certainly that's something we will certainly look to do in the near future, and we'll get that in the diaries very quickly as well, and give you that opportunity to look at Iris Elements. And I think, Rebecca, just before this call, we were talking about, as much as Iris would like to do a show and tell of Iris, we might look to, not putting you on the spot right now, but at some stage show how Iris is used by somebody in practice as well, which I think would really help the our customers.
Yeah, and happy to do that.
Fantastic. That's what you call literally putting you on the spot. But thank you. I think, Sean, there's a couple of questions that I know we've got from customers. Quite specific things around the differences or questions around TaxFiler Elements. So one of them that comes up from time to time is the need for the presentation of authentication codes for companies' houses when you log on to Elements. Do you want to just explain why that's the case?
Yeah, so this has definitely come up before, and the presenter authorization code is required for any software that submits to company's house. And the code that was entered in TaxFiler would have been long ago by the user, and the code's hidden for security reasons. So when moving to a new product or really any product, the code has to be entered again. So if there is a customer out there that's unsure of what that code is, then it can be requested from company's house.
Great, thanks. And then another one that I know has come in quite frankly is the question around integration with Iris OpenSpace. Is a question that's come up from time to time.
Yeah, and for anyone that isn't aware, OpenSpace is sort of our document sharing platform. So it's a bit like Google Docs or Dropbox, that type of thing. And it's still there, it's still available for the TaxFiler customers. So you can still use that for sharing documents with your clients. What we didn't have in place immediately was sort of direct links. So being able to send documents from within the Elements platform into OpenSpace. So it was sort of having to be done sort of outside the platform, but we have been working away in the background, and that is due to sort of go live very soon. So the workflows you had in place before will soon be there again.
Thanks.
Just to add on, you know, regarding the presentation ID, you can obtain that very quickly via an email. So it's quite a quick turnaround from HMRC's point of view there, via email. So
Great, thanks for that, Rebecca. Again, on the kind of the difference between TaxFiler and Elements, you know, I think one of the things that I think we touched on earlier is Elements is built as a platform, which gives us the opportunity then to add additional you know, capabilities and modules. One of the questions that, again, I think most people are interested in is, you know, where does practice management sit within Elements and on that platform? Again, Sean, I'll start with you, and then Rebecca, I think you might have an opinion on it as well.
Yeah, so with sort of like the practice management side of things, when you first log into Elements, we sort of have a customizable dashboard. And within that, we sort of put in a number of sort of tax and account specific widgets, which allow you to sort of track where you are sort of within the year, how many tax returns have you submitted, how many are ready for review, that type of thing. So as soon as you log in, you get that information right there. And I mentioned earlier, we're sort of putting in like a due dates widget. So when you log in, you can see, okay, this is what I've got coming up in the next 7 days, 30 days, whatever time period that you want to deal with. And so we have got a number of things there to help you manage your practice for free. And then there is, because we are within sort of a larger platform, we do have sort of job tracking functionality within sort of our practice management solution, which is available if people are interested in sort of that deeper workflows and things. So that's available to purchase as well.
Great, thanks. And you know, there's the practice management piece, and then I think the other piece that's of interest to a lot of our customers is the AML piece. Rebecca, I think is worth mentioning.
yeah, so I think AML is such a hot topic at the moment. Well, actually, it's been a hot topic, I'd say, for 2 years now. And for me, I guess in an ideal world, I would have everything included from, you know, an onboarding a client point of view all in one place. So, for instance, AML is a massive part of that. So when you are using the dashboard there, you can also use the AML tools to undertake electronic checks. And it will prompt you for 2 different versions there that you can use. So you can also do a check on a company, for example. But what I like about that is, again, it's all in one place. So you've got that information there, and you've got the ability to see when that is next going to be due. And I think a lot of not necessarily bookkeepers, I think accountants get this wrong too, that sometimes they don't understand necessarily everything that they have to do from an AML point of view. And that one of the first stages of AML is the onboarding and obtaining certain information from your clients and undertaking certain checks and checking certain listings, etc., which can be done again electronically using the tools within IRIS Elements. So it's a great feature to have. And I would definitely be making full use of that. It's particularly if you're using the dashboard and the CRM system with IRIS Elements and having that all in one place. So it's just a great, I guess, additional tool to use as part of your AML process. So yeah, it's great to have. And I've actually reviewed that with the individual who built the AML process. Yeah, and so that was quite interesting from my point of view. But I love that element, because I think, again, for me, in an ideal world, just having everything in one place where I'm not having all of these different areas to store documents and all these different areas for, again, my future staff and current subcontractors to be checking, and also from a GDPR point of view, having that documentation stored, and also from you know, the risk point of view in terms of cybersecurity, etc., which all comes into it, having it in that one place is key and reduces stress, time, duplication, and additional risk. So that's why, yeah, I love the sort of AML part of this, and I'd be making full use of it if you've got access there. And I don't think TaxFiler had that. I could be incorrect because it was a few years back before the electronic checks for AML started becoming, you know, more prevalent. So yeah, definitely have a look at that if you've migrated over.
Great. And I think that's you talked about having reviews with team members who are involved in creating the processes. And it's great to hear that you know you mentioned the ease of use and the way the process runs from left to right being very user friendly and easy to adopt. And I like the area around the benefits of AML. You know, if you were to sit back and think about things that you could guide Iris on, you know, what are the things that you'd improve about Elements? Because again, you know, we want to be very clear to everybody on the call today. And one of the things that we're constantly looking to do is listen to that feedback and take it on board and continue to improve the Element solution, because that's candidly that's how we get better. And so you know, it's really interesting to hear what things practices out there and users of the system and software would like. So if you were looking at things that you would look to improve, are there things you'd suggest?
Yeah, so I think most of the things I would suggest are nice to have. I think I said this before, not necessarily a need to have, because you've got the functionality of, you know, some CRM systems don't, for instance, link to Companies House. It's very manual. You've got that. You've got the ability to link your TBs to QuickBooks and Xero. Again, saving time, and also free agent, I think, in there, which means that you're not copying and pasting from one system to another or worrying about the data being up to date in a TB, for example, which I love. I'm trying to think, what would I improve on? I think, yeah, if there was only one area, I guess, that I would improve on, but again, this is a nice to have, would be where you've got the ability to send documents for approval as the end process. Because at the moment, obviously, now from our point of view, we will download accounts and have them sent off to the client digitally for signature, for example. But if that was added on to the end, great. But then I know you're building out that other area already. So yeah, that would be a nice to have. But it's not a necessary. It would just be nice to have a full, I guess, end-to-end process. And that way you'd be able to check dates of information being sent, etc. Again, you wouldn't have the downloading of a document to then send in another way, I guess. But again, that's just yeah, it'd be nice to have that. You know, it's not a necessary in order to fulfill the job that we're doing per se, or the service. So yeah, I can't think of anything else.
Great. Sean, have you that, 'cause I think that's great feedback from Rebecca, and it's, you know, as I said, we're always looking to see how we can enhance that journey for our customers in how they use our solutions. Is there any feedback that you've heard from customers that you haven't already touched on, that kind of backs up what Rebecca said there?
Yeah, and I think that, as I suggested, is a really great one, because it's sort of creating that sort of like single place where you can kind of do everything. And I think that was some of the feedback we have had, and sort of with our open space integration work that we're doing, that allows you to sort of send those documents to your client and request signatures as well.
Yeah.
So you'll be able to get sort of that 360 experience in place. And yeah, that's something that customers have been asking for, and so that's why we're building it. So there's lots of good things like that that we're constantly trying to sort of take on board and improve with.
Yeah, that's great to hear. One of the things actually, as we were talking there, Rebecca, and you were talking about how your business was growing, how would you say Elements helps customers where they are growing their business, they are seeing what their practice expanding? How do you see Elements kind of working in that space?
So I'll say two things on this. Firstly, again, as I try and put myself in the shoes of a bookkeeper who's just qualified, who's looking for a solution that's going to help them, where it's not going to be, where they've got the support that they need, and it's not going to be, it's not going to cost them an arm and a leg to get started. And I think that's the key, because there's a lot of CRM systems out there, and particularly accounts production, self-assessment tools, etc., where you have to buy at a minimum, say, a space for 50 clients that you may or may not ever use, for example. So I think the difference here is that you can obtain, the use of, 5 clients, 10 clients worth of data there. And when you get to the point where you have grown, you can add on more. And I think that's the difference with Elements, that you can pick and choose. Almost, again, I know it's called Iris Elements, but the elements that you need to help you grow and support your clients and the services that you've got to offer, you can do that as you grow. And I think that's what's really helped us, because we started out, say, 3 years ago with no clients, no portfolio, no anything. And so as we've grown, we've added on additional parts of Elements that we think are useful and can help us support our clients better. So that's the difference. So you're not fixed in or tied into a 3-year contract sort of thing, which again, some of the CRM systems and products out there do tie you in. So you've got flexibility. And again, that's what you need as a new bookkeeper, to dip your toes in. Do I like this? Do I want to continue with this? And you've got options, essentially. But the other thing I'll say, which I don't think you do very well at sort of talking about too much, I think you understate yourself, I guess, if that's the word for it, is that you do listen to your customers. So you listen to what we've got to say. And again, if there's something that we think, yeah, I'd like that, again, you listen, you put a roadmap together, you communicate that, and that's the difference again. So you've got that, you've got support, which again is key to me. And I like having that relationship with the software provider that I'm using and knowing that I'm being listened to. So yes, I think you need to speak up about that.
Thanks, Rebecca. And I've been in software now for 25, 30 years. And I think that for me, everywhere that's been successful, it's all about that. It's about communication, and communication being two-way. As much as any software provider has a view on the marketplace and has a view on what's important to customers, unless we're actually listening to customers and then taking their feedback and reacting to it, we're not going to be successful. And so for me, from an Irish perspective, that is how we're going to be successful into the future. And look forward to meeting as many of the people who are on this call that I can't see today, but that when we go to ICB events in the future, hopefully get the opportunity to meet with many of them and many of you and talk to you and hear your experiences, because I think that really is, as to your point, Rebecca, I think that's really is critical. I think there's a question that did come in here. I'm just trying, as they're scrolling as we go, around phone numbers and support to help with the process. And I see Callum's just dropped the support email address into the chat there. But we are absolutely here to help and support you through that migration process, but not just through the migration process. Ultimately, we want to make sure that our customers are using the system as effectively as they can and getting the most value out of it. Because again, that's why Sean and his team are busy building the functions and features is to provide our customers with value. And if they're not aware of that, those capabilities, or they're not utilizing them, or we built it in a way that just doesn't make sense, we want to understand that so we can fix it. So absolutely, as I said, Callum's after dropping the email details in there. The other two questions that came up that were just to cover off is around the pricing. And so just to be clear, our goal is to maintain parity between the TaxFiler pricing and the Elements pricing. And so I think the question was, it stated it's going to be the same, but hinted the second year cost will be substantially more. Our goals and our intention and our plans are that the two prices will remain in line with each other, because ultimately that's what we're trying to do. So there is no plans to move people across to Elements and then suddenly hike up the prices. That's certainly not in our plans. There will be that parity between TaxFiler and Elements. And then another question relating to pricing as well that came in was around practice management. And so one of the benefits that we have of having the if you like, the platform of Elements is that it allows customers as they grow and develop and want to use more capability in the system, they can then effectively pick and choose the parts or the modules that are relevant to their practice that will give them the benefits and give them the not just the compliance pieces such as AML, but then also into productivity tools where we can help your firms to become more productive and build in some of those efficiencies that the solution can provide. And so those different modules do come with additional costs, but it allows you as practice managers to identify which modules you want and which ones are appropriate for your business. And again, the team are more than happy to sit down and walk you through where that value sits in terms of moving from one or adding on one additional module on top of the core platform. So I think we're probably pretty much up on time. I think that's hopefully we've addressed all of the questions that I'm kind of just looking at the chat here to see if we haven't missed any. We've had a couple of questions come in today. We've had other questions that we've talked about that have come in from previous sessions like this. This is just one of a number of these sessions. We're always looking for opportunities to Rebecca's point, to get out there and talk to our customers and answer those questions as best we can. We'll continue to run sessions like this over the weeks and months ahead to answer questions. There's the QR code on screen there, which will bring you to the Migration Information Hub, where you get a lot more information around that migration journey and next steps. So I'll leave that up on screen for the next little while. You can scan that code and it'll bring you to, as I said, the IRIS Migration Information Hub. Sean, Rebecca, any last words? I'll go Sean so Rebecca can have the last word. Any last words for the group before we sign off today?
Just a thank you to everyone for attending and to the ICB for letting us have the opportunity to talk to everyone.
Yeah, and thank you so much for having me as always. And if anyone's got questions about how I'm using Elements, you know where to find me. Ask me in person, ask me online. I'm more than happy to help. So yeah, thank you once again for having me.
Not at all. And then just finally from my side, I just want to first of all thank the ICB for hosting this event. So thank you very much for having us on and giving us this opportunity to speak to our bookkeepers and have that opportunity. And also to all of you for attending. I appreciate everybody's very busy, and so take the time out and have this 30 minutes or 40 minutes or so with us today. I appreciate you taking that time, and hopefully we've answered your questions, and hopefully we've demystified some of that journey and moving across from TaxFiler to Elements. And it's something that you can be more confident about doing after this event. So enjoy the rest of your day, and thank you very much.